Hello America, and welcome to the inaugural episode of POTUSwatch for Friday, January 20th, 2017. I'm David Safar. POTUSwatch is a volunteer-run show that serves as a watchdog for the executive branch of the United States government. Donald Trump and his cabinet represent a strong swing to the right in the White House and appear poised to undo much of the progress that has been made in the past 8 years. Early signs are that the new administration's policies will likely harm conservatives as much as liberals, so it doesn't matter where you fall on the political spectrum. If you're worried about Trump, we're here for you. We intend to keep you up to date on what the executive branch is up to so that you can resist the bad and support the good. We're here to inspire hope, educate viewers and ourselves on political topics, and promote nonviolent progressive activism. In introducing myself, I'd like to make it clear that I am not a journalist. I'm just an American who values truth, ethics, and the well-being of my fellow human beings, and who has grave concerns about the future of those values under the incoming presidential administration. I live in Sunnyvale, California. I'm in my mid-30s, and my background is primarily in software, with some experience as an internet media hobbyist. My interest in politics has been slowly growing over the years as I've become more and more concerned, alarmed even, at the direction my country has taken since the beginning of the 21st century. My fellow POTUSwatch volunteers will introduce themselves as they join in later in the program. But this show isn't about me or about my fellow volunteers. It's about helping to keep you hopeful, informed, and politically active. Let's start by introducing the cast of characters we'll be keeping an eye on. The elected officials of the executive branch are President Donald Trump, formerly and currently a business tycoon, and Vice President Mike Pence, formerly Governor of Indiana. Donald Trump is also responsible for designating people to fill 15 cabinet posts, 6 cabinet-level positions, and numerous members of the executive office of the President. Trump's designees for the cabinet are Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, formerly CEO of ExxonMobil, Secretary of the Treasury Steven Mnuchin, former Goldman Sachs partner, senior manager, and hedge fund investor, Secretary of Defense retired Marine Corps General James N. Mad Dog Mattis. Mattis served as commander of the United States Central Command under President Barack Obama for nearly 3 years, succeeding General Petraeus in the role. This is an interesting one because he wasn't actually eligible for the role when Trump selected him. Per Wikipedia, because Mattis retired from the military 3 years ago, Section 903A of the NDAA will need to be altered, or a special waiver will need to be enacted, since that statute demands a minimum of 7 years as a civilian for appointees. Wikipedia goes on to note that the Senate Armed Services Committee, the full Senate, the House Armed Services Committee, and the full House of Representatives all voted to grant the waiver. Continuing on, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, formerly the junior senator from Alabama, Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke, formerly a member of the House of Representatives from Montana, Secretary of Agriculture George Irvin Sonny Perdue, former governor of Georgia, Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, an investor and former banker, Secretary of Labor Andrew Puzder, former president and CEO of CKE Restaurants, the parent company of Hardee's and Carl's Jr., Secretary of Health and Human Services Tom Price, formerly a physician and member of the House of Representatives from Georgia, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Ben Carson, a retired neurosurgeon and author, Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao, former Secretary of Labor under President George W. Bush and Deputy Secretary of Transportation under President George H.W. Bush, Secretary of Energy Rick Perry, former Governor of Texas, Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos, a businesswoman and philanthropist and former chair of the Michigan Republican Party, Secretary of Veterans Affairs David Shulkin, formerly Undersecretary of Health for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and Secretary of Homeland Security retired Marine Corps General John F. Kelly, formerly Commander of the United States Southern Command under President Barack Obama. As of recording, all of these designees were still awaiting confirmation by the Senate. Some of the other names you've likely heard, Reince Priebus, Stephen Bannon, Kellyanne Conway, Jared Kushner, and Sean Spicer, for example, are not officially members of the cabinet, but cabinet-level appointees, or members of the executive office of the president under White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus. We'll cover them in future episodes because, frankly, This list was already long and boring enough. Now, let's go to our POTUSwatch correspondence for some thoughts on the incoming cabinet. Coming to us from San Mateo, California, Ilia Shrago. Thank you for joining us, Ilia.
Thank you for having me, David. Good to see you.
So why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and your background and what unique perspective you're bringing to POTUSwatch?
Well, I immigrated to the United States 26 years ago. It'll be 27 this summer. I'm a graduate student at the University of Santa Cruz studying European history. And what I hope to do is bring some historical perspective to modern events.
Excellent. Excellent. So, today is Inauguration Day, and the new President of the United States, Donald Trump, is getting sworn in. Along with Donald Trump, we are receiving a whole new cabinet, all of the people that he has chosen to appoint to the heads of the various departments of the executive branch. What are your views of his cabinet picks overall?
Overall, I can't say I recall this country ever having a cabinet of people not only fundamentally unsuited for their positions, but seemingly in direct opposition to the purpose they are supposed to carry out. We have a Secretary of Education who is planning to cut the education system in favor of private religiously oriented schools. We have a potential new head of the Environmental Protection Agency who tried to sue the Environmental Protection Agency some time ago. We have an Attorney General who does not believe that atheists have the same claim to the truth or is capable of perceiving what he calls the truth as religious people. And we have a potential, they're all of them, frankly. I do not recall a cabinet so fundamentally included in all of our history. If anyone can be found to correct me on this, I will gladly be proven wrong, but thus far, it looks almost like a mockery.
It would actually be encouraging if you were proven wrong by that, because we would be able to see that we got through worse before.
I should like to be proven wrong myself. Indeed I would. But at the moment, it does not seem likely.
Are there any individuals that are part of the Trump cabinet that you find to be particularly bad, or indeed maybe there's a diamond in the rough, maybe there's somebody there who's actually good for their post, or at least able to keep the ship straight?
It figuratively kills me to say this, but potentially our new vice president, Mike Pence, but really to an extent, and this is the one silver lining I see here, all of these people, at least as far as is currently visible, are not in office to carry out their duties or to benefit the country, or rather, they see the benefit of the country as their own benefit. As a result, they themselves are interested in preserving a certain amount of stability. For their own benefit, yes, but I suppose we'll have to take that along with that as best we can.
Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, put it this way. It is sad to say, but by the looks of it, this election and the election of these particular people has brought to the fore some of the worst things in human nature. Human nature, as Agatha Christie so wisely said, is much the same everywhere. And heaven knows this is not the first, and it's not going to be the last crisis our republic faces. We are a very young republic as republics go. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Venice faced crisis after crisis for 11 centuries, and it still took Napoleon to put an end to it. Donald Trump and his company are not Napoleon and his marshals. However, racial incidents have increased. Attacks on the LGBT community have increased. Attacks on Muslims have increased, and the man is barely in office, for heaven's sake. So, I don't think that we need to take the extreme negative viewpoint that this is the end of the republic as we know it. It's not. It's not. We will outlive this presidential misfortune. Thankfully, we have a constitutional amendment in place to make sure that Donald Trump does not get more than 2 presidencies, even if he gets one. Let's face it, he is utterly impeachable from day one. The emoluments clause is being utterly neglected. So chances of him surviving the entire 4 years in office without facing an impeachment process are not that great. We will deal with this. We shall outlive this misfortune. But in the process, a great many of the most negative qualities in people are being brought to the fore, and people, unfortunately, now feel safer in expressing these qualities and these opinions. So the best thing that we can do to help each other survive, to help this country as we know it deal with this crisis, is simply to remember, I suppose if I can phrase it this way, to stand actively on the side of such ethereal but nonetheless real things as honor, compassion, elementary human decency. If we see a Muslim being attacked because of his or her religion, if we see anyone being attacked because of their gender or sexual orientation, if we see anyone being attacked because of their race, we need to speak out against it. We need to defend each other against these things. Right now, it would appear that the Republican ruling elite is attempting to bring back not even the 1950s, as many people seem to think. No, they want to go back to the 1920s and the Gilded Age. To some people that seems, for some reason, appealing. But the Gilded Age is called that precisely because it was merely gilded. And a thin layer of gold paint on the outside did not seriously conceal all the monumental problems within. We cannot go back to that period. We did not go through the last nearly 100 years of social progress for nothing. And we cannot allow that to be undone. Yes, we have 4 years ahead of us, presumably. I doubt it'll be 8, given the current scandals already. But we have potentially at least 4 years ahead of us of a very difficult time in which many of the institutions which make us strong as a society will be under attack. It is important that we remember the necessity of remaining decent human beings, at least in our daily interactions with one another.
Agreed. That seems like an excellent, hopeful note, and in future episodes we will be talking more about the ways in which we can peacefully resist and help each other through this difficult time.
Now, hopeful notes we shall need a lot of in the future time.
We need an entire hopeful symphony.
From your lips to God's ears, as they say. I'll play fifth violin.
Thanks for joining us, Ilia.
Thank you very much, David. I shall see you soon.
Look forward to it. In future episodes, we'll cover the current events of the week in the executive branch, include educational content on a relevant topic, and highlight charities we think are worth supporting to resist Donald Trump's harmful policies or to aid those who are most at risk from them. That's all the time we have for the inaugural episode of POTUSwatch. We'll begin regular episodes on Sunday, January 29th with a recap of Donald Trump's first week in office. Thank you to everyone who helped make this episode possible, including correspondents Ilia and Chad, John on tech, Nancy and Phil for help with cameras and lighting, and Rami for studio logistics. If you enjoyed this episode of POTUSwatch, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow us on Facebook at POTUSwatch or Twitter at POTUSwatchShow. Feel free to contact us with questions, comments, or corrections. If you really liked POTUSwatch, please consider volunteering to help out with the show or becoming a patron on Patreon. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep calm, keep informed, and keep resisting.